Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. Just deal with it. So, part three of this little segment here, working through this. Again, still some proof of concept stuff in the works here, but interesting problem that I had to solve as a result of this has to do with shadow DOM and injecting slotted styles. Another weird convention I'm kind of digging up. Don't know if I want to roll with it, but we'll see. So, let's look at the state of where I have this now. And I had mentioned before I needed to fix this menu. Well, I fixed the menu. And now that we're using this little button, right, with the tooltip, which is the same as the Tor, right, and they're pegged to the singleton. So as in the demo earlier, saw that kind of hopping between the two. So I got to clean some stuff up there, obviously. But it's way faster than the menu system I had previously, which is the goal I was going for with this. So the idea is I select this. I say, yeah, give me title or H2, go to code, go to paragraph. All right. So it's, I need to, make sure it doesn't clip the screen, but it's doing what I wanted to do. It's fast. It switches context. You can see the item actually identify itself correctly based on what it is. Whenever there's a change, that one actually bumps it up, right? So there's some little wonkiness with it. But, so here's the problem. I hit take Tor. This text is enormous. You say, well, why is it enormous? Well, let's look at what's influencing it. So I've just got a paragraph. It's a generic paragraph, and the base CSS styles get applied to it. Why? Because whenever we invoke our Tor or when we invoke our little text format menu here, it's invoking our singleton. Well, our singleton is not kept within all of the other shadow roots. So the singleton has a single shadow root, which is simple popover. But that means that when I add stuff into this, this is in the light DOM at the highest level of the tree. Well, second from highest, whatever. So as a result, it ends up picking up global styles rather easily, right? Because it's just simple popover manager and then H3. So whatever the H3 styles are at the global level, they're going to apply here. However, you may have noticed when I open up this, these are a different color and they're tiny. So how do I do that? Well, one, they're paper item, just for the time being. It's just a selectable thing. But here's where the funness is. In this instance, it injects some styles that actually are in the light DOM and therefore global scoped, and then targets the specific things that are being injected at that point in time. So you can definitely screw some stuff up with this. But let's see how that ended up working, how I did that. So here's the API, if you will. I have my simple popover selection, right? And it's in a slot, which is primary. Now, fun thing with slot, you get into this like slot nesting juggling type of scenario. This slot of primary is for Hack's toolbar. Slot style, or in this case, slot button or slot options. These are all directly under simple popover selection. And if we recall from the way options were handled, it's actually going to look at whenever the menu opens, the menu will say, oh, I opened. Okay. Let's let lit element take or lit HTML take over me and my content area as far as the popover. And then in that area, let's take the options from the slot of the thing that requested me, clone them, and then add them into the menu. Now, I do this for two reasons. One, so you can bounce between things and not lose what those items are, right? We still want the menu options associated with any number of menus. So we can't use the direct ones because every time we would call this, we would lose what they were. And the other thing is, I don't want the user, in this case me, the other developer implementing this, to have to do event binding and juggling. So what this is doing is it's serving both purposes. It's grabbing the slot, it pulls in those options, puts them in the thing that just opened up at the top. Then it walks through the children of that thing, and it applies a click event so that when I click it, I know what got clicked and what to focus on. So that part, cool. So here's how we did the styles. Similar type of thing. I say, okay, query the slot, right? So in this case, we're using an attribute query here. Find things that are slot style. If we found one, then clone it and this true is deep clone. So it's just going to make sure it gets the whole item and its text content, which is what a style tag actually has. And then it's going to remove the slot attribute from the clone. And then it's going to inject it into the content just after the div, quote unquote, that'll have all the options. So we'll get all the options and then styles injected locally if they exist. So part of this is a little bit of blind faith, right? We're using unsafe HTML. So I could write whatever I wanted in there, and it's unsafe by design. But it's another web component leveraging this in my stack here. So we've got content, and then I just render that back out to what it is. So if we look at what those styles are, this effectively allows me to say, and there's a little bit of like, you need to know what's going on here, but I can say, okay, simple popover manager, and I've got these in place because I was doing some testing for the map, or sorry, the tour. So now we got simple popover manager paper item. Well, that's going to be in the light DOM based on how this ends up working. So I'm able to influence anything I want in that case, right? This is just applying some global styles. The fun thing about this, though, is when it closes it, that goes away, right? So this pops up. We can see there's styles there, and we can see that paper item ends up applying this. I apologize for the head bobbing. Again, obviously I'm listening to Feed Me on Spotify again. Love some good EDM. I got a good mix going here. It's really hard when you're killing it with the glasses, obviously. So I can toggle this on and off. We can see exactly the way it wanted to render, right? So originally it was going to render like this big long list, and then I can toggle this back on, right? So interesting way of solving this, right? Because I couldn't even pass CSS variables down into it necessarily. I'd have to do all inline styles, which I really don't want to do. Or I'd have to do something with options where like options is a div, and then, or, just a slotted area. And then I take the children of that to apply the events to, but then allow that div to somehow bring in styles or set CSS. It'd be a cluster. So I'm not entirely sure that I want to roll with this solution long-term. But it meets the needs of what I'm trying to do here. I do want to see what happens when I try to implement it as part of the tour, because the tour, which is ticked off now, again, you can tell I have a little state management issue going on there. If I invoke the tour and switch between these rapidly, it gets mad. So I do need to come up with how I'm going to handle the tour in this same way, right? Because it's using manager, and it's got its popover, and it's getting its contents set dynamically. So I need to add support for a style slot area there too. However, then I'll be able to target correctly, this H3 and the button and whatnot for styling. Now I could just do this at the high level, right? I could put these, make these changes in base.css, but I'm trying to make this as modular as possible so that you could override it. And you can see here, I've used a CSS variable, but I could very well use some other CSS variable so that when this gets injected, you could actually still influence it. Another thing I thought about doing was potentially doing parts with these so that it was like part equals simple popover, content or child or something like that. So still playing with it, but again, thought it was an interesting pattern. I haven't run into that before. So, as usual, other than these glasses, which are amazing. Have a good weekend.